Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, August 10th, 2024. The fire potential impacts for the next few days are shown here. For today, we have wind over northern Nevada and up into southeast Idaho. We also have some mix of wet and dry thunderstorms over the higher elevations of Idaho, pushing into western Wyoming. And then we have the mostly wet thunderstorms in Utah today. Tomorrow, the winds shift a little bit further south over western and southern Nevada. And we see wet thunderstorms continue over Utah and some gusty winds in western Wyoming. And then on Monday, the winds increasing over Nevada and up into south central Idaho. And then we have a return of some storms to the central Idaho mountains on Monday and a stronger push of this deeper moisture over Utah up into western Wyoming. Yesterday was a fairly active day for thunderstorms. Most of the storms in Utah were wet, and the storms in eastern Idaho as well. With some heavier amounts where we see these few green dots there over the higher elevations of southern and eastern Utah. Some storms already occurring this morning here in central Idaho with these yellow dots that have some precip right under the core, but any strikes outside the core would be on the drier side. Great Basin fire activity for the past 24 hours is shown here. We had 27 new fires for just under 1,000 acres. A lot of these new IA fires were in Utah and eastern Nevada associated with those thunderstorms, and our large fire growth was just under 4,000 acres. ERCs continue to be on the decline across southern Utah, southern and eastern Utah, where we have seen wet thunderstorms, and we expect those values to continue to decrease over the coming days with continued storminess there. And ERCs are higher over the north and the west. Taking a closer look at a couple of these zones over northwest Utah, we can see the ERCs are right at the historical maximums given the dry air that we've seen recently, but those should decrease rapidly over the next few days with moisture moving into the area. Same story further south over southwest Utah and the Arizona Strip. Those values have come down below historical maximums, but are still fairly high for the time of year. We do expect those to continue to decrease over the coming days with more moisture there, but looks like they will increase quickly after this current moisture surge. This morning satellite imagery shows a trough over the Pacific Northwest, bringing those increased winds and some moisture to the central Idaho mountains. And then we also have a fair amount of moisture in place underneath the ridge in Utah. Smoke for this afternoon is shown here on the left. We have smoke still in place over much of Idaho, but we do have some clearing in southeast Idaho into western Wyoming and some clearing over portions of northern Nevada and northern Utah. Tomorrow the clearing looks a little better over Utah, but we still see the smoke in Idaho and pushing back into western Wyoming. So for today, we have high risk for those thunderstorms in the central Idaho mountains, and then we also have high risk for wind over western and northern Nevada and into southern and southeast Idaho today. Closer look at the winds show gusts over along the Sierra Front and up into central and northeast Nevada, with some winds up into south central and southeast Idaho. Precipitation shown here on the right shows a better chance for some precip possible over the east central Idaho mountains later this afternoon, with a few bands of storms moving through this morning, and then precipitation also expected further east into western Wyoming, and then another round of showers and thunderstorms over Utah. Tomorrow we'll see some more of the same in Utah with wet thunderstorms continuing across the state there, but we also expect winds to pick up further south in southern Nevada and along the Sierra Front with high-risk triggers issued there. So those winds showing gusty along the Sierra Front once again, and then strong winds over southern Nevada, and another round of showers and thunderstorms in Utah. On Monday, a trough over the Pacific Northwest continues to strengthen and deepen along the California coast. So we'll really see winds pick up over a larger area on Monday, and a little bit of moisture starting to move into the central Idaho mountains. So we do have a high risk trigger for the thunderstorms there, and then a lot of wind in our forecast as well. So here we're looking at the wind, much larger area of gusty southwest winds ahead of that trough in the Pacific Northwest. Gusts 35 to 40 miles an hour possible over portions of Nevada and the far southwest Utah. Minimum relative humidities will be low over Nevada. Over Utah, they'll be higher with the moisture that's still in place there. We'll see some of that moisture move northward into western Wyoming on Monday as well. The 3-day precip totals are shown here. The precip is expected over the east central Idaho mountains today and into western Wyoming as well. And then the storms over Utah continue today through Monday. On Tuesday, that trough it still remains in place over the Pacific Northwest, keeping winds streaming into western Wyoming, western Nevada, and up into southwest Idaho. And then we'll also continue to see some isolated storms over the central Idaho mountains. Wet thunderstorms are still expected to continue over central and eastern Utah and up into western Wyoming on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the trough opens up a little bit, begins to bring drier air further east into the Great Basin. So we'll see the winds continue in Nevada, and we'll see some drying in Utah for decreasing showers and thunderstorms on Wednesday. But we still see a little bit of moisture associated with that trough over the higher elevations of central Idaho here. So we do have that high risk remaining in there for some isolated mixed wet dry thunderstorms. On Thursday, we should see kind of a break day in thunderstorm activity with dry conditions across much of the area. That trough digging a little bit deeper over Oregon and into Northern California. And then on Friday, we still see that trough strengthening over the Pacific Northwest, dry, gusty air moving into Nevada and Idaho. And then we see that southerly moisture surge back up into Utah for a return of showers and thunderstorms to central and eastern Utah on Friday. And the extended forecast, or the precipitation, 7-day precipitation totals shown here, still calling for pretty good precipitation amounts over the higher elevations of central and eastern Utah over the 7 days, an inch or an inch and a half possible in total. Some pretty good amounts over the western Wyoming as well, but dry over southwest and western Idaho and dry over much of Nevada. The extended forecast for August 17th through the 23rd brings above normal temperatures to much of the Great Basin, but we see this cool signal along the coast. Kind of an interesting pattern for August. Certainly, this precipitation pattern shows us that we should still expect to see southerly moisture streaming into Utah, but that the Pacific Northwest will see troughs move in, bringing some moisture there. So we'll see just how much precipitation ends up coming into Idaho, and it should be kind of a breezy forecast as well. This concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.